I'm going to be talking to you guys today about my animation journey and like my journey through school. So this is part one, told by moi. So starting at the very beginning, going to elementary school, I really wasn't good at all of like the subjects that society considers important. Like I wasn't good at math, social studies, science. I also wasn't really good at reading. My reading level was low. My mom and I would butt heads about that all the time. I always felt like I was just a failure when I looked at other people around me and they just seemed to get it and I could not get it. I was, however, really good at daydreaming. I was like that kid in class who could just space out and no one would even know. And like I remember my elementary school teachers telling my parents like, yeah, he just like today he at school he just like had this piece of glitter and he played with that piece of glitter the entire day and he was fine. And it was weird, but like I was that kid. I could easily distract myself, and I think it took me a really long time to learn that I just had a really vivid imagination. So getting into my art, I started drawing in the second grade. I remember specifically it was a Native American assignment. We were learning about Native Americans and we had to illustrate like what we were learning. So I did my project and I remember adding like one of my friends in the background as like a funny little joke. And I shared it with those friends and they just got like such a kick out of it. They wanted me to do more. And then I got this idea of making comics. So I started making comics with my friends and I and them, and we would just go on these wacky, crazy adventures. And then I was like, I'm a huge nerd with video games and stuff. So like I would do like Mario spin-offs and like those characters would come into my comics. It was just random weird stuff, like Adventure Time random. And then that continued all throughout like my elementary school, just making comics with my friends and I. Then when I got into sixth grade, I got misdiagnosed with ADHD. And yes, I say misdiagnosed because this was at a time where whenever parents took their kids in and like complained about they're having problems focusing, the doctors would just automatically say it's ADHD. And the thing about me was so weird was that I wasn't hyper. I didn't have that hyperness. I could just like doze off and teachers wouldn't even know that I was dozing off because I was really shy and really reserved in the classroom. And I was on like 3 different medications throughout middle school. And then I was placed in middle school and high school, I was placed in those special academic programs, like the extracurricular classes that were designed to help people like this be more successful. But being in these classes actually made me feel a lot worse and they lowered my self-esteem. And I later found out in life, which is just a totally different other story, that I wasn't actually diagnosed, like I didn't have ADHD. I think I'm not like knocking on people who have ADHD, but like, because I know it's a real thing, but people who have it for real, like it's a real struggle for them. For me, I think it was more about my insecurities, and that's where rooted in my struggles with school. So, but at the same time, this is also in sixth grade, my teacher gave us an assignment and she told us to basically write, it was a creative writing story and we could create anything we wanted. And she made it this whole contest and she's like, there's gonna be a winner. And I ended up winning this contest. And she took my story and she read it out loud to the entire class and everyone loved it. I hid under my desk and I felt so ashamed, so embarrassed, and I was crying. And when I'm telling the story to you guys now, I realized that the reason why I felt all this was because I was so used to failing that I wasn't used to getting recognized for any type of success. So this really scared me and it was a shock to me. But at the same time, I'm glad that she did this because it opened me up out of my shell and I began to share more of my work with other people. I wrote more stories and I would share it with that same teacher, and she actually got sick of me like sharing stuff with her because I was doing it so much and I was like so confident in it now. And so I would just like pass out my comics to anyone and then I would just let them read it, and I just loved like the reactions they would get from it. And I did that all throughout like middle school, high school, and the friends that were in my comics slowly started getting taken out of my comics and I was replacing them with my own original characters. And then going to the end of high school, graduating, I still wasn't good at math, wasn't good at history, wasn't good at science. And so I was like, you know what, I don't care about going for this stuff. I'm just gonna go for art because that is the one thing that I know I'm good at. And being the youngest one in my family and having 2 older sisters who were really good at school, they made it look super easy. there were definitely expectations there that I did not meet. So when I presented this idea of studying art in college, my mom and I butted heads a lot over this, and she did not agree. I got a lot of like the typical like, oh, what's your backup plan? Or what are you gonna do with this? Like, what is the purpose? What is the point of this? I didn't know, I didn't care about all that stuff. I just had this side of me, even though I had these insecurities, I had this other side of me that was always more confident and a lot more happier about things. And I just had like this hope that things were gonna work out if I just try. And so I went to Solano Community College. If I were to describe my time at Solano, it was a big search. So I remember I started learning more about animation industry, like the possibilities of, pursuing that. But then I was also learning about the more independent side of being an artist and like creating your own business and things like that. And so I juggled around with those ideas. And I remember, geez, I'm blinking now. So I started with my first year going through that. And then my second year, I remember learning about like the different art schools and how to get into those. And there's like Cal Arts and things like that, and learning about internships. And these art schools were always super expensive, and they were just impossible for me to pursue. And I remember the fairs would always come in, and I always talk to people at the school fairs, and like, how do you get in? And it's like, oh, the tuition fee is too much. And so I decided I would take the cheaper route, and I would just network my way into the industry, because I learned, it was about who you knew, but it was also about drawing good. And so I did that. I was like networking. And so I had my own friends at Solano, and I was like, if I make art friends, artists, we should help each other out, and if I help them, maybe they'll help me. And like, but I was just looking in all the wrong places. And these art friends I had at Solano, they saw me as like a threat, because I came in with all this confidence of like what I wanted to do. And they weren't sure, because, a lot of community colleges are designed for like a segue into what you want to do. And so a lot of people there at the time when I was there were still learning and trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And so me being confident, Aerick, like, oh, I want to do animation and I know what I want to do. They attacked me for that. And that affected my self-esteem going into my final year at Solano. And I remember feeling really lost. And I changed my major about like 4 different times. I kind of started pushing away like my dreams of pursuing animation. And I was like, maybe this is just stupid. Maybe I'm just, maybe this is just like childish stuff. And like my drawings are stupid. And I changed my major to psychology. Then I went back to graphic design. Then I changed it to English. And then my last semester at Solano, I remember going to Target, and I found this children's book. I don't know if anybody has seen it before, but it's about these crayons, and each page is like a different color crayon, and they're talking about like their experience of being like used. And I just thought it was super creative, and it reminded me of like my dream of wanting to make children's books and like everyone knowing my characters and stuff. And I looked at the author, looked him up, and I saw that he was studying school, and he was studying film. And I was like, I remember looking at the Cartoon Network internship requirements and seeing like, oh, students need to be at least pursuing a degree in film or art in some way. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna switch my major to film and transfer to Sac State. So I transferred over to Sacramento State, and I was like, this is the place. This is where I'm gonna meet my people. And though I loved my experience at Sacramento State, I loved all the friends I made. Studying film there was great. It was just all live action focused. None of it was, and no one there was really trying to go for animation. And that really showed me like, I'm gonna have to try even harder. I don't even know where I'm looking, but I'm just gonna have to keep going. And I remember I went to one event at Sacramento State. This is still my first year. And I met someone whose uncle worked on the Monsters University movie. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is my shot. I was like, do you think he could look at my portfolio and give me some tips and things? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then he gave me his contact info. I emailed him. He emailed me back, and he came down on me really hard. So what you're seeing on the left side is like how I was drawing before. And like I used to draw, I had like my own style and like my own little bubble stick people, and I was totally confident in that because it was so unique to me. And I was kind of like a hipster in that area where I was like, you know, I draw like this and like the animation studio draw like that, but like maybe I can introduce them to like my way of drawing and be a new thing. And he wasn't having that. And I think when he saw my portfolio, he thought I was just a big joke, and he thought that I was coming off really conceited. And so his first email to me was very like harsh, and I felt like I was wasting his time. And then so I remember within like I talked to him, we were emailing back and forth for like a couple of weeks, and within those couple of weeks I started to change my my style, because one of the things he told me that I need to draw more diverse, and like focus on shapes and things like that. And then so what you're saying, like the middle and the second, was like the second 2 pages are like my transition. I took one of my characters and I drew him in a different way. I shared all the stuff with him, and he was actually impressed. And I think he started to realize that it was more serious. This was something that I was serious about. And he told me to basically just keep going. He didn't give me like the magic key into the door like I hoped, but he just told me to keep going. And he gave me a boost of confidence that I was on the right path. So that was enough for me at the time. And then first year of Sac State ended. Then going into second year, pandemic hit, everything went virtual. One of my friends reaches out to me through Instagram chat and was like, hey, Pixar is doing like these free portfolio reviews for like anyone who's interested in animation. You should totally sign up. And I'm like, well, last year I had someone from Pixar review my stuff, and he came down on me pretty hard. But I don't know. But you know what? It would be nice to get like another perspective and hear someone else's thoughts on my portfolio. So I'm gonna do it. Then I sign up. I get connected with Angela Insminger. We do a video chat. She's going over my portfolio and she sees it. And I told her the stuff that he had said. She didn't agree with a lot of it because, like I said, he said I was coming off conceited and things like that. She didn't see that. She saw it as like I should present myself how I want to present myself, which I really appreciated that. But she was more focused on what is your focus? Because I basically took all of my art from everywhere and I threw it on my portfolio because I wanted to impress the recruiters as much as possible with like my ability to grow with my art. And she was like, I understand that, but you need to pick something and focus. Like, is it storyboarding? Is it character design? Is it writing? And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll go for storyboarding, story artist, because I like to make comics and that's like the closest thing to it. And then I'll keep writing as my backup. So she's like, all right, so do that. And then at the end of the interview, or at the end of the review, I remember asking her, like, you know, I'm at Sac State and I don't really know what's coming up for me after this. Like, I'm meeting people here, but they're all like live action film people. And like, how do I meet people that are like around my age that are going for the same thing as me? And then at the end of it, she sends me the link to the Discord server for Rise Up Animation. And then those who aren't familiar with what Rise Up Animation is, these are the founders of it. Basically, when the pandemic hit and the George Floyd incident happened, these guys came together and they were like, how can we create opportunities for people of color and other minorities to get their foot in the door? Because like I said, when I was at Solano, the animation studio seemed so exclusive. Like, people who I knew who were only getting in there were people who either went to Cal Arts or some sort of art school that was super expensive and far away. So it felt extremely exclusive to me. And because of Rise Up Animation, I have gotten to where the opportunities I've gotten to because of them. And like, if this wasn't created, I do not know where I would be today. Super thankful for this organization. I got my first Animatic gig through Rise Up Animation. There's a certain job listings area in the Discord server where people post job listings. Someone reached out saying that they are a voice acting teacher for a middle school age kids, and they needed someone who could draw like animatic or make an animatic for their final project that they were doing. They've already written the script. We just need someone to like animate it. And I volunteered to do it. I did it. I made those connections with those people. It was awesome. I also joined the volunteer team in the Rise Up Animation Discord, not like the Rise Up Animation, like the actual Rise Up Animation. There's the Rise Up Animation and then there's the Discord. So I joined the volunteer team in the Discord server, and I take notes for the RUA meetings, which is basically like we invite people, different people in the industry, and we bring them onto a video chat and we interview them, and we get to learn cool things about what they do. but it's more of like a safe space for them to be more unprofessional, which is great because we get to see the more raw side of them. And I love taking notes for them because I've met like so many really cool people in the industry, and made a couple friends actually, just through those experiences. These are all the Rise Up Animation mentees. I'm in here somewhere on the top row, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is all grown because this was back. I remember taking this picture last year for this. It was like early last year. So I'm pretty sure there's a lot more mentees than this. Rise Up has grown to a more serious organization, and it's a lot more professional now than it was when it first started out. And it's going to continue to grow because it's a lot more involved with and a lot more recognized by big studios like Disney and things like that. These are the Rise Up mentors. I'm pretty sure there's more of these guys too. I've been seeing a lot of listings from Rise Up saying, if you want to be a mentor, sign up. These are the requirements. So I'm pretty sure this is all grown. This was all posted like last year. I'm going to talk about my Nickelodeon interview. So, like I said, I met with Angela. That ended. We also talked about like staying in contact, and I was like, do we stay in contact after this? She's like, yeah, sure. I'll still reach out to you after this. And I was under the impression like, okay, she like works in animation. She's a super busy person. She does all this stuff. She's just being friendly. Like this is just stuff you say to someone like as like a friendly goodbye. And then, but she was serious. Like every once in a while, she would email me up with opportunities. None of them were opportunities that I was interested in or things that I really qualified for. So I kind of always brushed them off. And then one time she sent me an email and she was like, hey, the show that I'm working on needs a new production assistant. Send me your resumes and I'll forward them to the recruiters. And I was like, you know what? I'll give this a shot. I'll send it. Send her my resume. 40 minutes later, she emails me back and was like, hey, there's some things on your resume I think you should tweak. I didn't want to make the changes at first because I'm a little bit stubborn and lazy. But I made the changes and I sent it back. And then literally like a couple of days, I think it was like the next day, and Nickelodeon emails me for this interview for a shot at the Loud House as a production assistant. I remember opening up the email and I'm like, huh, Nickelodeon wants to interview me. And I'm like, Nickelodeon wants to interview me? Like, what? And then it all just hit. And then I ran downstairs. I went to shock. I ran downstairs, told my mom. My mom was shocked. Told my sisters. My oldest sister, who's in the military, was stationed out in Maryland at the time. She was telling her coworkers. All of her coworkers who I've never even met were like rooting for me and like praying for me. I made this whole Facebook post. Everyone, like all the animation gods were like lifting me up. I didn't get this job, which sucked, but I did I did learn a lot. I think what burned the most was that literally the next week, Rise Up Animation did a webinar panel for studio interviews and like what to look for and what questions to ask and like tips for going into a studio interview. And I was like, great, Rise Up, like this would have been awesome if you guys were like a week ahead, but you know what? Life is what it is. And it was actually cool because I went into that webinar and already knowing like how my experience was with this Loud House interview. And so I was able to critique myself and things that I should have said and things that I could do differently next time this opportunity comes up. So that was that. I took that away from it. And I also got bragging rights because how many people can say that they got interviewed by Nickelodeon in their life? So that's what I took away from it. So I literally got that interview like 2 months before my graduation at Sacramento State. And when I didn't get the job, I was like, this was my one shot. And like, I don't know what's gonna happen now. Like I graduate in like 2 months, like what am I gonna do? And then, so I kind of just aimlessly moved through the rest of my time at Sacramento State, graduated, got my degree, still came back to my current job where I'm working with kids. I was doing that for the next months. And then I was also part of Latinx Animation, and they reached out to me because they were partnering. They're like, hey, we're partnering with Netflix on their newly launched Netflix Animation Foundations program. We think you should apply. And I applied and I got in. And this was like such an exciting experience for me. Like I can't even express like the relief that went through me, and like this whole program was great for me. And they're also partnered with Exceptional Minds. For those of you who don't know what that is, it is I believe it's an animation school located in LA area. It's specifically for people who are on the spectrum of autism. So they partnered with that school and Latinx Animation to launch this program. And it was a 4-month program. And it was advertised as 3 months, but they gave us an extra month. So it went from September through January of this year. And we got connected with our mentors and we got to learn. We were broken up into groups based on our interest. I was obviously in the story development department. And then this was my mentor. Her name is Tamara Lesher. She, at the time, she was the head of story of a Netflix feature, but literally in the middle of the program, she moved over to Disney, which was weird because it was like she was my Netflix mentor, but now she's working at Disney, so she's not really my Netflix mentor. But it was a learning curve for us because it taught us how quickly people move around in the industry. Like you're not in one place for very long. You're constantly moving around. She worked on Beauty and the Beast. This was also cool because she told us that she worked on, I don't know if anyone remembers, like towards the end when everyone thinks the Beast is dead and he's not actually dead, but and Belle like is laying over him and she's crying and she's like, oh, I love you, blah, blah, blah. And Tamara actually did the pose for that and she drew that. She told us that she did that, which was really cool. She said that they just used a desk chair and she like leaned over it and that's how they got the pose for Belle. And then she also worked with Pixar and Blue Sky when Blue Sky was a thing. Rest in peace. This was the project that I did in the program. She gave us a prompt. The prompt was just to create a story where there's a change in the weather. It could be anything we want, but just make sure there's a change in the weather. So I created the story called Blown Away. It is about this leaf named Maple that we see here, who is the only leaf on the tree who is not falling off. Everyone else around her is falling off the tree. And there's this puddle at the bottom of the tree and everyone's playing in it and Maple feels left out. And a big storm comes and pushes her off of the tree and literally blows her away into this whole big city, brand new environment where she makes her own friends and she enjoys her life. And I basically made it based off of my own personal feelings that I was feeling, where I was in a place at the time where I felt like everyone around me was moving on and doing things and I was still stuck in my room and I felt like I was just stuck and I wasn't growing or doing anything. And yeah, that was basically the premise of the story. I wanted it to feel like a Pixar short. And so that was the direction I went in. This is the concept art I did. The early sketches of Maple is all on the left side. Tamara didn't like them. She didn't like that she had hands and she didn't like how simple the design was. So I had to go back and change that. I actually changed, so I redrew her the second time and then that one got approved. And I ended up doing the entire storyboard with that design of her. But then I went back and I looked at it and I personally didn't like how she was still looking. So I went back and redesigned Maple a third time. Then I went back through all those different panels. I think I had 515 panels. And I went and redrew Maple on every single panel because I did not like the way she looked. And Tamara was actually really glad that I did that because even though she liked the second version of her, she was like, this last version is much better. And then I had a concept where the maple or the leaves at the bottom were going to be like moving into different pine cone homes, and it was supposed to reflect like people getting married and like having kids and things like that. So all these leaves at the bottom were going to be like having kids and like moving into pine cone homes and like living their best lives, and Maple was going to be up there by herself, wanting to be part of them. We also learned and did our own beauty shots / like beat boards. For those who don't know what this is, beat shots or beat boards are basically like captured moments within the feature that tell the story, basically tell the feature in like a short amount of time. So like the first shot we have the establishing shot, which is like the first shot we see in the short, which is the tree. And then the next shot to the right, we have it representing like how Maple feels left out because all the leaves are falling and she's not falling. Then in the bottom left, this was another scrapped idea. So I had this, I can't believe I said this. So I had this idea where like the leaves would be at a bar and they'd be like getting drunk off like maple syrup. And that was like supposed to be like a comedic thing. But I also, Tamara didn't like that idea, which is why I got scrapped. But I also had told her that I was worried about it being too funny, and she didn't like that I had the leaves doing too many like people things. She wanted them to be like, what she wanted me to think about what would be fun for a leaf. Like what would be considered something that a leaf would want to be a part of that would make them feel left out. And I was like, well, what if, so we came up with the idea of like, what if there was a puddle at the bottom of the tree and all the leaves are falling into it and playing in the water. And so that's what we came up with. Not this stuff. And then the last shot there, she's going into the city. Oh, I didn't talk about the tree. So this tree, this was the first version of the tree. And then Tamara didn't like that. So I literally, the second time I drew it, I took, ooh, I'm not about to raise my hand. My iPad thinks I'm gonna raise my hand. Sorry. Yeah, so the second time I drew the tree, I literally took a Google image and I traced the tree. Tamara still didn't like that. And I was like, how am I gonna fix this tree? And these are all the final shots that are in the storyboard. And so that was the version of the tree that made it in and that was approved. So that was great. I was like, Tamara, how does my tree look? And that was like always my question. And then, so I've tried to do a lot of dynamic shots too, because that was something I've never really done before. So my favorite is probably the one at the bottom left with Maple looking down at the leaves playing in the pond, because I've never really done like a down view shot like that. And then the city one is also great as well. I just wanted to put these in here to show you guys what some of the final shots looked like in the storyboard. This is some more shots. So when on our final day, when we pitched this, our final class for the program was like our pitching day, where we actually got to practice pitching in front of each other. And like a couple weeks before our final class, Tamara emails us and she's like, by the way, Jeff Randro is going to be in to watch and listen to you guys' pitch. And I didn't know who Jeff Randro was. And I looked it up. For those of you who don't know who he is, he created the first drawing of Olaf. He storyboarded the You're Welcome song on Moana. And he is the producer on Maya and the Three on Netflix. So he's a pretty big name guy. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's gonna be sitting in and listening to me pitch the story about leaves falling from a tree. Like, what? And then I was like, so Tamara, you're just throwing us out there like that. This is really happening. Okay. Like she just threw us right into the water. But it was great. He sat in, he listened. He gave us all really good feedback on our stories. And with mine, he was confused with the story, with the plot, which kind of hurt, because when I first pitched to Tamara, she was confused on the plot, and then we made tweaks to it and then it made more sense. But then when I pitched it to him, I felt like I was back at right where I started, because he was like, I don't understand this plot. Because when I pitched it like, oh, all of her friends are leaving her, they're all falling from the tree. But she leaves and she makes these new friends in the city. And I was trying to explain like my personal life with it, like wanting to make new friends and like having friends over here that like aren't really, they're my friends, but they're not really doing things for themselves. And I want to surround myself with people who are going after what they want. And he understood that, but he was saying there's no character arc for her. Like, he didn't understand that she wants to be with these friends, but then she leaves these friends that she wants to be with and goes off to the city and makes new friends. And so we came up with the idea of the change in Maple would be like, maybe she changes colors. Maybe she starts off as green to represent like the reason why she's not falling off of the tree, because maybe she's not grown up yet, like she's not there yet, and everyone else is like mature and grown and they're moving on with their lives, and she hasn't reached that level yet. And then when she flies off the tree, then she transitions into the brownish orange colors to represent her growth and change. And I liked that idea a lot. I also like that they were able to make tweaks to my story without changing the message that I was trying to send out, because it still kept the same message of like feeling left out and things like that, but just they kept everything the same, the message of it the same. This is also in the last day of class, we took a picture together. Just wanted to put this in here for fun. That's Jeff Randro up there at the top left. This was something really nice that Tamara said about us. I saw it on her LinkedIn page. So I took a screenshot of that. This was like my favorite day of the program. It was just, there were a lot of laughs. It was just really great hearing everyone's pitching, and then like seeing how all of our stories changed over the course of those few months. And it was just a really great night. This was something else Netflix did for us. They sent us these goodie bag with like a welcome letter, congratulations, welcoming us into the program. They sent us pins, a notebook, a shirt. I actually wore that shirt to bed. I slept in it the first night I got it. I was so excited, and that's like my favorite shirt. I love it. And also, this was during our Netflix wrap party. This was the very, so we had our last class in December, and then in January we had our wrap party. And I'm gonna butcher this guy's name, but it's Jorge Gutierrez. Gutierrez? I don't know. But those of you who don't know him, he created the show on Nickelodeon called El Tigre. I used to watch that as a kid. More recent shows, he did The Book of Life, and he also created Maya and the Three on Netflix. And he was invited there because we found out that he is on the autism spectrum. And so he came in and he spoke a lot about that, which was really great, really reassuring. And most of the questions he got actually were about like how he dealt with being autistic and pursuing a career in like art and animation and things like that. And he said a lot of really helpful things that even helped me too, because, you know, regardless of where we all come from, I think we can all relate to, you know, feeling lesser than or not feeling like, you know, we qualify for things because of something that we think we have or that we feel like is a part of us that is making us feel lesser than. And so that was really, he said a lot of really great stuff. I really loved listening to him talk. We also played Kahoot. I got butchered in that. And then Netflix gave us a free meal voucher to like, so we can have food while we do the party, because it was all virtual. It was originally supposed to be at the actual Netflix studios, which would have been awesome, but Pandemica was blocking everything, so that didn't happen. Now we're going to move on to part 2. Rachel, how are we doing on time? Part 2 is shorter, I will say that. I feel like I've been talking.
I think we're doing fine. Yeah. I blocked out until about 8:15, 8:30 for this. So go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. So this is part 2, everyone. How does one simply break into the industry? I have my little OG character down there. All right, so there's no clear answer, but there's a lot of different ways to get in. Like, no one's gonna hand you a magical key like I always thought would happen. There's just a lot of different ways to get your foot in the door, and people come from all over the place and work in animation, which that's something that I've learned just pursuing this this career. And it's, you know, it sounds scary at first, but it's actually really reassuring, because it just shows like you can come from anywhere and work in animation, and there's no clear route. I will also say though, this is something I said in my Netflix program during one of our like mid meetings that we had. I felt like no one's gonna really hold your hand. You're gonna have to definitely put in work. It is a grind, but there are people that will guide you, that will offer you things to like try and pursue, but you're gonna be the one that has to take those things and do them yourself. This is a little night. So this is like another nerdy thing, Little Nightmares reference, if anyone knows that game. All right, moving on. I also recommend joining an organization. The only one that's really exclusive that I have listed here is Rise Up Animation. They're specifically for people of color. All these other ones, you can be an ally, you can join it regardless of where you come from. Open Animation is one that I actually kind of I forgot about this one, because it was started by this really cute like married couple, and it started like right when the pandemic hit, and I thought that it kind of died out, and I just went on the Discord the other day, and they're still like posting classes to join and like times and things like that. So definitely check them out as well. They do a lot of free classes, basically, different things, and it's all volunteers. All of them on there, just people volunteering to do classes for free. There's Latinx in animation, there's Black in animated, there's women in animation. You do not have to be like a woman or Latino or Black to join any of those. It's all like free. I also want to recommend that social media is your friend. I know it's good to take breaks from social media, but if you are pursuing art and things like that, you're going to want to have a social media, and you're going to want to be active on it as well. When I was first applying for things, they specifically have like a section for you to post your links for your social media, and recruiters do look at your stuff. The only one that was weird for me was LinkedIn, but like I didn't have a LinkedIn before, and you're gonna want to have a LinkedIn. I thought LinkedIn was for old people, but then like I go on there and like everyone for animation is like on there. It's like basically like Facebook for animation people. So get a LinkedIn. The only one I don't really use is Twitter. But I know a lot of people do portfolio day on Twitter, and recruiters do look at that stuff. Like you post you use the hashtag portfolio day, and recruiters will look at your stuff. So it's all good to have. Now we're going to talk about mentorships, because I've been talking about my Netflix thing. When I got my Netflix mentorship, a lot of people thought, oh, he works at Netflix. Oh, it's an internship. It is neither of those things. None of my work was for Netflix. Like my mentor specifically said on day one, like, you're doing this for you. This is all your work. None of this stuff is going towards Netflix. None of this is for Netflix. This is all you. So it is not a job. It is not an apprenticeship or an internship. For those who don't know what an apprenticeship is, it is basically an internship for people who are have been out of college for a while. So you qualify for an internship if you are in school, or if you are within 1 year of post-graduation. So once that 1 year is done, you can no longer do internships. You would look for an apprenticeship. Mentorships also do not promise you a job in any particular studio. And as I said before, your work is your own. And it does not require any professional experience. So you just like submit your application. You would probably have like a cover letter explaining why you want to be in that mentorship, and then you submit your portfolio to them and cross your fingers. These are some mentorships that I found that different organizations are doing. All these dates are past. I know they're all old, they've expired, but I wanted to put these on here just so you guys to look out for them. I don't know if mentorships is becoming a new thing, because I honestly never heard about them until I heard about the Netflix thing. So don't quote me on that. I don't know if they've been around for a while, but I know DreamWorks just launched one with historically Black colleges. Women in Animation does different cycles of mentorship programs. And then Netflix Animation Foundation just did their next season for the spring. One of my friends just got into that. And that one, they partnered with different people. So I think each season they're going to partner with different people. I think you can still apply, like, even regardless if you qualify, because when I did the Netflix thing, I'm not Latino, and as far as I know, I'm not on the spectrum of autism that I know of, but I'm not at that school, and so, but I still got in, and so those are just, they might have these things where they're like, oh, it's for these types of people, but still apply, because you just never know. Next I want to say is beef up your portfolio. So portfolios are supposed to reflect what you plan on doing for a living. So like I learned from my mentor, Angela, if I'm going to do storyboarding, I need to have a lot of storyboarding stuff on my portfolio. You also want it to reflect your own work. People do put fan art on their stuff. I have fan art on my portfolio. I was told to just have it in its separate slot, like its separate page. So all my fan art stuff is on its own separate tab. And like I have all my more professional stuff up in the front. Use lots and lots of reference. I got in trouble a lot during my Netflix program for not using a lot of reference. I used some reference, but Tamara was really good at like catching the spots where I did not use reference. And people in the animation do have really clean eyes for, like, they can read your work really well. I will say that. So you're not going to get away with anything. Use reference. Also, reference is not cheating. I used to think it was cheating, but it's not. It's preferred to use reference. It's not a good idea to draw from like just what you think you know. You always want to get that raw, real life reference. Show the process in your portfolio. Like, this is more for like if you're going into character design. You're going to want to have a lot of character turnarounds. The studios are going to want to know how well you can draw these characters. Think about shapes, different shapes reflecting different characters. Um, drawing the character in different positions. If they're standing, sitting, drinking coffee, you want to make sure you know the character inside and out. How tall they are, how short they are, things like that. Always update your portfolio with your best work. You never know when an opportunity is going to come knocking at your door. I was just making updates to my portfolio yesterday. Yeah, like I said, you never know, and you want to make sure that you have stuff to present whenever these opportunities come. Another thing is learn these programs. These are all studio required. This was another weird one for me because when I was in the Netflix program, I was trying to get a hold of Storyboard Pro, but it was super expensive. And so I asked Tamara if like there was a way to get like a student discount because they were counting the Netflix program as an education class thing. And so I was like, well, if it's like an education college class, like, shouldn't we be able to get a student discount for it? So I talked to Tamara, she said she'd find out. She forgot to find out. So then I just asked the people in charge myself, and they told me like, oh, it doesn't matter like if you know Storyboard Pro or not, you can use what you're comfortable with. But Tamara was saying these are what is required in the studio. So I was hearing one thing from them, then hearing another thing from Tamara. And I just went for a Storyboard Pro. I actually was able to use my Sacramento State email and I got the student discount, which I don't know how it worked because I've been over a year graduated. So I'm like, I don't know, but I'm not going to complain. So I was able to use Storyboard Pro in my Netflix program. But yeah, those are definitely all three things that you want to have some experience in. Some studios give more freedom. I know Netflix is for sure, it gives you more freedom with what you can use, but not all studios are like Netflix. So just, it's good to have these ones. I don't know about Maya, that is the 3D one. I have friends that use Maya. I don't have any experience with doing 3D animation. I'm all 2D. One more thing I do want to say is that Storyboard Pro is more focused on, is more used for TV animation, and Photoshop is more used for feature films and things. Another thing I would recommend is taking online classes. I specifically take classes from Andy Kung. He worked on Arlo the Alligator Boy, both the TV series and the film. I really like how he does the storyboards, and I love his musical sequences, so I'm inspired by that. All of his classes are on Project City. It's through Rad How To School. I don't know too much about that. I just follow his links whenever he posts them. Also, another one that is on there that I know is really good that my mentor Angela takes is Ethan Becker. He's that YouTuber guy, but he also does classes on Project City, Rad How To School. So those are the only two that I know are really good. I'm not familiar with any of the other people that are on there doing classes, but that's the place to go for classes if you want. Oh, these are, I forgot I had these on there. These are like personal projects I'm working on. This is like a web comic I'm trying to do. I just wanted to share like some of the personal stuff, personal projects that I have going on. It is going to be like a webtoon. It's still very early on in production. It's actually not going to be in color. I did these when I wanted to do it in color, and then I realized I don't want to do it in color. I want to make it more like a storyboard style. So it's all in black and white. This is another one that I'm working on called The Land of Monsters. These are characters that I've had with me. Rachel probably recognizes these guys. I've had these, I was drawing these in her class actually.
I do recognize those.
Yeah. So yeah, this is all work in progress. I've just been drawing out random sequences with these guys, trying to get a storyline with them. I actually don't have a storyline for these guys. I'm still trying to work on that. I saved this here at the end because this is not something I'm currently working on. This is something I did when I was at Sacramento State. So remember I was talking about how there was nothing really in animation for me at that school. Like I would talk to professors and they'd give me projects and I'd be like, hey, would it be cool if I like made this into an animatic or like did an animation or like drew this out? The answer was always no until I was a senior and I did my senior project, and my super awesome professor for that class allowed me to make an animatic. So I wrote my script for this and then I pitched it to the class, and she chose my story as one of the ones that could be directed. So basically the class was set up where if you wanted to direct, you write your script, you pitch it, and if only a certain amount of people will be able to direct, and mine was one of the ones that got chosen. And then so mine got picked, and I had my own team of people. I had a producer, I had a sound mixer, and I had an editor. And basically the story was like a spin-off story of the Hansel and Gretel fairy tale. And I took this character named Hugo and I created him. He's basically the grandson of the evil witch from that story. And he doesn't really know about his grandma being like this evil witch. And so he goes to the school that she attended about like magic baking, and he learns about her dark history. And that's when he realizes, oh, I don't want to be like my grandma. Because in the beginning, he wanted to be kind of like her and like be a super awesome witch like she was and make these delicious treats and things like that. And then he learns about what she did with them. Like she would bake treats and like bake kids into pies and things like that and eat them. And he's like, oh, this is horrible. I don't want to be like my grandma. And this is another one of the characters I had. I liked where I was going with the story, but like if you want to watch Animatic, it's on YouTube. If you search J Street Film Festival, Hugo Leckermall, it was in the Sacramento State J Street Film Festival. I liked the story, just I had to rewrite the script. And when I rewrote the script, I left out the tie-ins with the Hansel and Gretel story. So like when you're watching it, if you don't know the story of Hansel and Gretel and like the lore of it, you're gonna be like, well, what the heck is this? So like when I rewatch it, that's what I think to myself. I'm like, dang it, if only. It's actually gonna be reshown at the Verge in Sacramento in a couple of weeks. My professor just reached out to me and asked if she could show it again to like I think it's like an alumni event. So I'm going to that because I want to see this again and cringe. Last bits of advice. I have this quote here. It says, "You will make it if you keep drawing. The only way you won't make it is if you stop." That is by Debbie Benami Ram. She was actually the speaker for the studio interview panel that I attended with Rise Up. And this was like one of the first things she said. And it really resonated with me because it just shows like there's no way of failing getting into the animation industry. There's only like failing if you stop. Really, it's basically the question, or really the only answer is if you stop, you're going to fail. But if you keep going, you will be successful and you will make it to where you're trying to go. I said this already, but update your portfolio and resume regularly. Personal story from this, I applied to Warner Bros. Recently in January, and it was another one of those opportunities that Angela sent out to me where she could refer me. And I had not updated my resume since I did the Netflix stuff. So I still had stuff from Netflix that I needed to add in that I didn't add in yet. And she literally was like, it's first come, first serve, send your resumes ASAP. And so like, I only had like an hour and I like sent in my resume and I was like, oh my gosh. And I think I had like typos on my resume and things like that. I haven't heard back from Warner Bros. Yet. So that's that. That's why you want to make sure you update things regularly because you never know when the opportunity is going to come knocking at your door. Also, remember to take it easy on yourself. Yes, it is a grind, but it needs to be a balanced grind. It is not a grind worth killing yourself over. So take those breaks when you need to. The art life is a tough life. I'm learning that. You guys should know that too. I actually forgot that I put art and not giving a crap equals confidence. That's still on there. But yeah, so if you're like me, and you struggle with you're like confident, but you also have a lot of insecurities. Art is something that helped me give me confidence. If you're like me and that's something that works for you, just remember to not give a crap about the other stuff. And that is what will give you confidence to be successful. And that is all I have for you guys today. Q&A time.
Awesome. So if you'd like to ask questions, you can raise your hand. You can raise your hand in the Zoom reactions, or you can type them in the chat. Just let us know if you have questions. Okay, I see a question here, Eric. What are ways to avoid scams? And I'm guessing this might be like job scams, or example, exposure versus income is what this says. So what are some ways that you could kind of avoid that?
I actually almost fell into a job scam before, because I've gotten an email about I got an email from some fake companies saying that they're giving me an opportunity to work for Lucasfilm, and they said to like send in your resume and stuff like that. And I remember I actually, what did it for me was like they told you to download this app and talk to the person on the app, and if you're interested in the job. And then when I talked to the person on the app, he was like asking for more like personal information, and then I was like, I don't trust this. So just remember, it's if they're asking you to like do all this extra stuff, it's probably a scam. Um, if it's from an official, if also another thing is like they didn't have the official logo of like Lucasfilm or anything like that. They didn't have any like address or anything I could follow. So look for that stuff at the bottom of the email. Yeah, you'll avoid scams that way. And yeah, good question.
We have some other questions here. Where can we find you on social media?
Social media, I knew I should have put that in my PowerPoint. I'll just type it in the chat.
Yeah.
My Instagram is the arts of Aerick, right there. Also my LinkedIn is just my first and last name, Aerick Hood, if you guys want to connect with me on there. I think that's all I use, Instagram and LinkedIn.
So I see another question here. How have you been able to stay true to your own art style while marketing yourself to potential studios?
That is a good question, because that's a tough one. I've been doing a lot of exploring with my art, and I basically take things that I like I'm really inspired by the Hilda show. And so I look at that work and I'm like, I want to draw like that. And it's all about finding what you want to draw like just if it's a TV show, if it's a video game, just take that and study it. And I remember when I was at school, they always told me to find an artist that you're really inspired by. And back then I was always like, I'm my own inspiration, because I was like, just like being stubborn or whatever. And so I had my own way of drawing, my own thing. And then when I started breaking into the industry more, and I started watching more things and educating myself on more different types of styles, I started finding more things that I liked and what other people were doing, and I wanted to draw like that. So just explore more, and you'll find the style that speaks to you.
Great. That's great. So we have some more questions here. Do you recommend freelancing or working for a studio? Is it harder to find jobs for one versus the other?
Ooh, I don't have much experience for freelance though. I did end up publishing like a Kindle short story. And that wasn't really I made like $40 off of it. I haven't really done a lot of freelance stuff. The stuff I've been doing has all been more focused on getting into the animation industry. I will say it depends on your level of freedom. If you want to work in an animation studio, you're not going to have as much freedom. If you want to do your own thing, you're going to have the freedom that you want. So it's based around that.
Got it. We have a few more questions here. Do you ever critique portfolios or demo reels?
Not professionally. If you want to send me stuff, you can. I'm not the best critique, I will say that. I guess I could probably do better at, if it's like story artist stuff, I could probably give you some tips based off the stuff I've recently been learning. I was literally emailing my Netflix mentor all last week and this week, she's been helping me with my portfolio. So I've learned a little bit more things to have. So I could help you with that stuff, but I'm not really good at critiquing other people's art and things like that. I could try.
So a few more questions here. Are you part of an animator guild? How does that work? And does it apply to freelance animators too?
Animator Guild. I'm in the Discord chat for the animation guild, but I'm not involved heavily in it. I attended a few meetings, and I also joined the Netflix thing. It happened right when I was joining the animation guild Discord thing, so I kind of fell off of that. I've been seeing like the movements that have been going on, but I'm not officially in anything.
Got it. Let's see, we have some more questions here. Have you ever gotten portfolio reviews done by studios at conventions such as Ctnx or Lightbox?
I have not. All my portfolio reviews have been like more independent people who are working in the studios.
Got it. Yeah, Ctnx is definitely, I think, one for people that I know that are interested in working at places like Disney. I think that's a really
Yeah.
big one. So we have another question. What is something to stay away from when putting things in your portfolio?
I guess I would stay away from having too many words. You want your art to speak for yourself. I do have, for my animatics page, I do have a little bit of background on like the story for my animatics to give a little bit of context. But you don't want to have too many words. Um, like I said before, I talked about fan art. If you're gonna have fan art, have it in its own tab. You also want to make sure that you have whatever your main focus is going to be, have it right there in the front where that's like the first thing they're going to see. And I will say, don't have, maybe like 1 or 2 samples of everything is fine, not too much.
Got it. So we have another question here. Let's say someone wants to start their own business in animation and art. Do you know how one would start with that?
Wait, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Sure. It's let's say someone wants to start their own business in animation and art. Do you know how one would start with that?
Starting your own business in animation and art. Um, I'm not too sure about that one because, like I said, I haven't started my own business or anything like that. I've just been seeing a lot of like, I've seen artists who are doing it, but I don't know how they get their start. So I don't know.
I think from what I've seen, a lot of it has been posting on social media, you know.
I also see a lot of like people create Patreons and people
Yep.
create I don't remember like the coffee thing. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like you buy them a coffee
Hmm.
basically and you like it's like a Patreon. So I'd
Yeah.
say start Patreons. A lot of big artists start making Patreons where they like post exclusive art that can only be viewed on the Patreon, or they do prints and things like that that can be accessed for Patreon subscribers only. So definitely recommend that.
That's awesome. So we have more questions. Do you have to move to LA to get into the industry? Do you plan to move down there?
So first question, yes and no. With everything being more remote now, I've actually applied to some internships that are remote. So you have that option of being remote or living out there. I actually just attended a webinar with Black and Animated. They were talking about they had people who are living or living in LA that are interested in animation or working in animation, and they were talking about like expenses and things like that. LA is very, very expensive. So my advice is that I'll give you the same advice they give us, which is if you can get a remote internship and you're comfortable where you are, like you're living with your parents, do that until you get more stable in the industry and then make that big move because it is very expensive. Yes, I do plan on moving. I actually have like a couple options of roommates, hopefully by the end of this year, but I definitely want to move out of Vacaville.
Got it. So we have some more questions here. Do you have any advice for someone who's looking to take their first animation class? Hoping to take my first one at Solano in the fall.
Ooh, so fun thing about that is animation wasn't really a like there wasn't an animation class when I was at Solano. That literally got added, I think like right when I left. And so I was like, that would have been great to have. um, but I definitely recommend if you're because so like I said, Solano is it's those are for the community colleges are designed for you guys to figure out what you want to do. It's a lot of trial and error. So if you're interested in that, take the class. It's not going to hurt you. You will learn if you like it or not.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, as the person who's teaching that class, hello, and we're going to be we have a license for Toon Boom. We've been teaching Animate, Adobe Animate, and After Effects and Photoshop this semester, but it's going to be a great class, and I'm going to be teaching that, hosting it in-person lab hours on campus in Fairfield, and then we'll have the lecture portion, and it's an asynchronous class, so it'll be online. But yeah, if you have any questions regarding the class, I will happily answer them too after this presentation. I wanted to say that we have more questions here. We've got one. What is your best method to overcome creator's block?
Ooh, this is every artist's struggle. I'm actually kind of currently going through that right now. I would just say to take the space you need. I usually just start watching more things, like watching movies that you like, I use Pinterest a lot too. Just go through Pinterest and look at different art, and don't force yourself. Like if you don't feel like drawing, you obviously don't feel like drawing. And also like start small with smaller like projects for yourself. Like if you're trying to do like one big huge thing, start small. Maybe do like some little sketches, and then or go out to the park and like draw some things that you see. And you'll eventually get back in the swing of it.
Great, that's good advice, I think. So I don't see any other questions here. Let's see. So you gave us your contact information, and I'll share all of these with the notes and the recording. So if you're attending this, I will be posting the recording to this event on the Instagram for people to watch. And yeah, any other questions that you'd like to ask Aerick? Go ahead and put them in the chat now. Okay, I see one. It looks like, are there any YouTubers or Instagram artists that have helped you improve or that you take inspiration from?
Andy Kung is the one that comes to mind right now. Like I said, I follow him on Instagram and he posts his stuff, and I also see I also have taken his classes, so he is one of my big inspirations right now for like storyboarding and things like that.
Got it. Where do you want to be working in 10 years?
To go back to that one, Ethan Becker is really good for as far as YouTubers go. He's a really good one to look at.
Great. And if you could share those names with me, I will put them in the notes along with the recording. Where do you want to be working in 10 years?
Where do I want to be working in 10 years? I hopefully want to have enough experience with the animation industry that I can pitch my own show and have like my own show, or at least have a movie made. That was always like my dream when I realized I wanted to use my art to entertain people. Like I wanted to eventually make something that would get enough attention that people in animation industries would want to make a movie or something out of it.
Very cool. Do you recommend internships for someone who's fresh out of college?
Yes. So about the internship thing, like I said before, you after you graduate, like from a UC, or after you get your degree, you have 1 year. You still have a full year to get internships and things like that. So you still have time to get internship. If not, look into apprenticeships.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's, again, really helpful to hear that from someone who's closer to that experience. Any other questions? Any closing remarks that you want to add, Aerick?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be invited to this. Thank you all who have listened to my story and listened to me ramble on. And yeah, I hope to do more of this type of stuff again, this is like my first time doing like a big presentation like this about like my life and my journey. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to present to you guys.
Yeah, I thought it was excellent. And I know that for the people who weren't able to attend, I'm sure they'll really enjoy watching this recording. And I'll be posting the links that you gave us along with the other contact information with the recording as well. So thanks so much, Aerick. This was really awesome and really, really helpful. So I hope everyone has a great night. And we're going to be doing more of these presentations with alumni from Solano College Arts who are doing other things in the art and design fields. So stay tuned for more of these. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye, thank you.